Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello. So today I want to speak to some of the things that have helped me on my personal development, spiritual awakening journey. I feel like a lot of the people I've been interacting with lately are going through different times of transition. I know I did an episode recently on transitions, but what I'm really seeing is a lot of people who are like in those beginning stages of a spiritual awakening, or maybe you've like dabbled in a few things, but you're like ready to just blast off. Like you're ready for the next level. You're ready to go deeper spiritually, deeper within yourself, like with your relationship with yourself, with the divine, God, spirit, source, whatever you believe in. And I want to share with you some of the things that have made the most impact on my journey in hopes that some of these things will be helpful for you as well. So, as per usual, I have no notes and this is off the cuff, so we're going to see where this goes. So, this is just something I've been reflecting on lately because I've spent a lot of time lately just kind of looking at like, my desires, what I'm desiring right now, and in some ways those things are shifting. So it's a really good practice. First off, here we are already going off topic, guys. It's a really good practice first off to consistently be tuning into what you desire, because it can change. So sometimes when we're so focused on like one thing, then it's like, oh wait, like I actually don't even want that anymore. Like that was an old version of me. And when we're on this like journey of consistently evolving as a human being, then our desires change with that, right? Like what we desire, like our standards, like everything changes. So back to the story. I was spending some time like recently just thinking like, what am I desiring right now? Kind of checking in, taking a beat, taking a pulse, whatever. And really thinking like, where am I now? Like, what's the gap? Like what, kind of like setting a plan, manifestation vibes. But I was also reflecting on like how far I've come, because I think sometimes we forget to look back and think like, wow, like here I am like desiring more and wanting more, but like, can we just take a second to look back and see like just how far I've come on the journey to everything that I desire? Because sometimes we're so focused on like looking ahead that like we don't look back. And not to look back from a place of like, anyway, I don't need to go into that, but like looking back from a place of like, I'm really proud of how far I've come, not looking back from a place of letting it hold you back. So anyway, I've been looking back on my journey and I've been like, wow, like the person I was when I began my personal development journey versus who I am now is like literally night and day. Like I don't even know her, but also like I do, right? Like I have so much love for the person I was back then, and for her courage to start this journey and to want more for herself and to say like, yeah, I'm gonna go after it. So I've been reflecting on that, and in that I've been thinking like, what are the things that have helped me get from there to where I am now? Like, are those things still things that are going to be helpful for me going forward, or do I want to switch up my plan? But in that, I want to speak to a few things that have helped me along the way and that continue to help me moving forward. So there are things that I still lean on, there are resources I still use that I'll probably always use, because I just think they're like the bread and butter of personal growth, of spiritual development, spiritual growth, awakening, all the things. So the first thing I want to speak to is like showing up for yourself, the inner work. And yeah, like I don't even know what to call it. I want to say it's like showing up for yourself. So for me, like this really looked like starting to put myself first sometimes, right? Like saying like, yeah, I desire more from my life. I desire big things. I have goals and all these things I want to achieve. So I'm actually going to step up and put in the work and show up for myself and do the things, right? Instead of sitting back and wishing and wanting, then I'm actually going to go after them. So then in that, like, the biggest thing is like actually showing up for it. So taking the action that's required of the type of person who has what you desire. So like, we can't say like, oh, I desire to like strengthen my intuition, but then we're not spending any time working on that. Or I desire to, better my relationship with money and call in more money, but like, we're not spending any time on like money mindset or energetics or anything like that, So it's like, are you the type of person who is going to show up for yourself and consistently put in the work that's required to have what you desire? And not that it's like work, like, oh, you have to like hustle and whatever, but it's like, are you the type of person who's like going to hold a higher standard for yourself and say like, yeah, like the version of me who has these big goals and dreams, like she shows up for herself. Like she doesn't like numb out watching Netflix every night. Like, sure, we can have some good Netflix. Like I love me some like, Gilmore Girls and trashy TV, but it's also like sometimes deciding, no, like what is going to move the needle closer to what I desire? How can I tune into my intuition today instead of just like numbing out and blurring the whole day and rushing through things? Like, how can I slow down and be present in the moment and like show up for the day, like show up for the present moment? And this is so powerful when you start to live this way and start to kind of shift your perspective towards living this way, because it is a lifestyle. Like it's not just a routine that you plug into where you're like, every day I do my morning meditation for 15 minutes and I'm manifesting. And like, that's it. Like for some people, obviously a routine works better for them. I know I'm kind of that way too. And I go in and out of periods of having like a routine, but it's like the intention behind the routine. Like, are you doing your rituals and your meditations and whatever from a place of like, yeah, I'm showing up for myself. Like my energy's behind this. Like I'm ready to see the results from this. Or are you doing it from a place of like, this is a means to an end. Like I have to do this to get what I want. Like if I do this like meditation quick, if I can like squeeze it in, then like it'll help me like manifest more money and like blah, blah, blah. Like there's a different energy to that. You know what I mean? Like, can you feel that? Like the difference between like, this makes me feel so good. Like I feel so lit up after I do this meditation. I feel so confident in myself. I have like my self-belief is off the charts. Like it makes me feel so much lighter, like a weight's off my shoulder versus, yeah, like I showed up to do my meditation because like I read online or I saw on some reel that it's going to help me manifest my soulmate. So like, I'm going to do it and see what happens. Like, we'll see. Hopefully it works. Like there's a different energy there, right? So that's probably all I'll say on my first point. Showing up for yourself, doing the work, all the things. Like I feel like there's so much more I could go into with that, and that'll probably be like various other episodes. But if you have any questions around this too, like send me a message on Instagram. I'll link it in the show notes. I always do. And send me a message and like tell me like, can you go deeper on this topic, on this thing you talked about? Like, can you go deeper into this, or whatever questions you have, like send them my way. Like I love creating like free content for you to consume. Like ask and you shall receive, you know what I mean? Like never underestimate the value of free content. So the second thing that I want to talk about is community, is having a space where like, and not even like one space too, is like just having people in your corner that get it. Like just people that get it. Like I find a spiritual awakening can feel so lonely for so many people. And I know it definitely did for me in the beginning, because I was like discovering all this stuff and I was so excited about it for myself. But then I was like, well, my husband thinks this is kind of weird and like woo woo. And like also like back then I was like a closet spiritualist, because I was still like considering myself to be a Christian, and like I was like resonating under that label. And so does my husband and like our families and everything. So it's like for me to like say that I was into this stuff was like taboo. So there's a lot of time where I kept it all in the closet. So I was like, I can't talk to my husband about this. He's going to think it's so weird. Like, I can't talk to my family about it. Like they think it's weird. Like none of my friends are really into this stuff. Like when I try and talk to them about it, then they're just like, oh, that sounds cool. yeah, good for you, So it became like a really lonely journey, and maybe you resonate with that too. And so what really had a huge impact on me was finding my soul people, like finding my community of women who like, they're on this path too. Like we're all kind of going different directions, but we're all heading the same way in the end, like we're all heading towards spiritual growth, and like we're all taking different paths there, but it's all going to the same place. So finding these people mostly online, like mostly just making friends online, being social, like networking, like that kind of thing has been huge for me. Like getting myself into spaces where other women were doing the same work, right? Because it's one thing to like just kind of hope you find someone or whatever, but it's another thing to actually put yourself in the room, put yourself in the position to, right? So for me, and the first way this happened for me was joining a like personal development program that was like 2 weeks long or something like that. And I had never spent money on myself like that before. It was like $200 or something, I forget. And I was like, this is huge. Like for me, it was huge to spend that $200 on a 2-week program. And it was all about like energetics and like holding the energy of what you're desiring to manifest. And in that, there was like, I think like 5 women in the group or something like that. And so I think there was like a Facebook group or something. But what I remember the most is at the end, there was like a final like call, like Q&A call or something like that. And I decided I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and I'm going to attend the call live, because like maybe I'll meet a friend, like maybe I'll find someone else who's like into this stuff like I am too. And so it was so out of my comfort zone to show up on camera and show up live on this call with women I've never met before, I barely know. And I did it, and I was so proud of myself for it. And on the live call, there was a coach and I think like 1 or 2 other women. Like it was very intimate, but I like got out of my comfort zone and I shared like what came up for me throughout the program. And I remember sharing like, this was my first time doing a personal development program. Like it was super eye-opening. It was like life-changing for me. Like I'm going to go back and do this work like again and again, because there's so much stuff in the program. Like it was huge for me. And I'll never forget that there was another girl who spoke up after I had shared. And she was like, I literally have tears listening to what you have to say. She's like, just knowing that you're at the beginning of this journey that I've already been on for years. And like, I'm literally getting chills telling the story, but she was like, knowing that you're at the beginning of this journey that I've been on for years, she's like, it just brings tears to my eyes because I know everything you're about to experience. And she's like, and I'm just so excited for you. And she's like, I'm so proud of you for showing up and like doing this program and investing in yourself and like coming on the call and sharing and everything. And this girl wasn't even like the coach. Like she was just another girl in this program, like another client. And I'll never forget that, because that was the first time that I felt like, what? Like, she's so nice. Like someone gets it. You know what I mean? Like they're on this journey too. Like she's further along than I am. Like she's been doing this for a long time. And like, there are other people doing this and they are making connections. And like, I still talk to that girl to this day. Like we were in a few other programs together, and like, I've just made so many great friends from like joining different mentorship containers and programs and masterminds and things like that, whether they're for business or for other things. I've made so many friends that like I talk to some of them like every day. So that's been super life-changing for me, because it's just having someone to go to. And like to this day, like there's friends where like when something pops up for me, like I'm feeling like a limiting belief coming up, I'm feeling kind of like I just need a pep talk or whatever, like I know I have those friends there that I can like pop in and message them and just say like, hey, like I'm feeling kind of funky today, like here's what's going on, like, you know, blah blah blah. And they'll reply back to me, and it's not like my, you know, real world friends, I guess, not my friends who are just like, oh yeah, that sucks, babe, like hope everything turns out, you know. It's like friends who are like, okay, like let's dive into this, like let's chat about it, let's like kind of workshop it together, like let's come up with some solutions, like here's a resource that I can share with you, here's like a ritual that helped me, like, you know, just people who get it and they have knowledge and wisdom to share with you. And whether this is just a friend, whether it's a mentor, like a healer, whatever it is, like this is part of the reason that I created my membership container too, because like I wanted to create a community. As much as I love working with people one-on-one and like building relationships and helping people, it's like nothing beats community. And like there's nothing that feels better than like someone posting something in the membership chat and another girl being like, yeah, I'm feeling that too, and like replying to her. And it's like it's creating this sense of community. And like right now it's a small community, like we're just getting off the ground. Like I had just launched it like not too long ago, but like it's starting to fill up, and there's starting to be the most amazing women inside of this membership. And it's like it feels so good that I'm like facilitating it, but it also feels good just to like see the others interacting, and like for me to build relationships with them. Like even it's like, to me there's no hierarchy. Like sure, I'm like holding the space and answering questions and channeling guidance and things like that, but it's not like, oh, I'm better than you or anything like that. It's like me building relationships with people and supporting them and sharing what I've learned so far on my journey and sharing my gifts and channeling my guidance with others. But it's also me like building a genuine relationships with people beyond like, oh, like you're just my client, like, and that's it, right? It's like, no, like you're my client, you're my friend, like I care about you. And there's just like literally nothing that beats that. It's just so extraordinary. So that's my number 2. I feel like I could be like gushing for so long, but I'll also link my membership in the show notes. If you're like listening to me gush and you're like, I want to be part of this community, then like obviously we'd love to have you. I'd love to build a relationship with you and welcome you in. And it's just such a nice space to like have consistent guidance and support, and also like consistent energy healing to keep you feeling like clear and light, and like I just love it. So the last thing that I want to speak to is probably like one of the pieces that I feel is like most important, and that is finding the resources that work for you. So where I got really tripped up on my spiritual awakening, my spiritual journey, was like copying everyone else, like finding out what everyone else is doing and being like, oh, she seems like so like spiritually along on her journey. I don't know the word for it. Like, what does she do? I want to do that too. Like, I want to do the meditation she's doing. I want to do like the rituals she's doing. And like, for me too, like I'm a mom, I'm busy. I have 2 businesses. Like, not that that's like, I don't like using any kind of excuse for anything, but like, all I'm trying to say here is I don't have time for a 2-hour morning ritual unless I want to get up at 4 a.m, and I don't. So like, that's where my situation's at. So like, for me to follow people who are like, slow mornings, like get out of bed without an alarm, it's like, BB, my kid's my alarm. Like when he wakes up, I'm up. Like I'm not getting out of bed slow. Like sometimes I do wake up before him, but not always. So it's like, for me, it felt so unattainable to watch some of these spiritual mentors and like manifestation coaches and all these things. And they were like, you know, like rolling out of bed, taking it slow, like, you know, opening up my blinds, seeing the daylight, stepping outside, drinking my lemon water, and just like stretching on my balcony. And then like slowly like reading a book and having like this nourishing meal that I just made from scratch, like all this stuff. And I would watch it and like it would make me feel bad. Like it would honestly make me feel bad. And like there's a lot to that. Like, you know, now I feel like I'm in a better place where I can see stuff like that and be like, oh yeah, that's vibey, and I don't feel bad about myself. But back then it was making me feel like this unattainable thing, like, oh, I can never be like that, I can never have that, I can never be as spiritual as her, because like I don't have those slow mornings. Like my mornings are like chaotic. Like we get up and my son's like, I'm hungry, and like it's like slapping together something for breakfast, and like, you know, trying to have a couple moments to ground myself, and I try and do that. But what I guess that's kind of what I want to speak to here is like, for me, what really changed the game is like finding what worked for me, and like letting go of like what everyone else is up to, what everyone else is doing, and like, you know, taking inspiration where you feel called, and taking like, you know, I always say like, you know, don't knock until you try it type of thing. So like always try something. Like if someone does like, you know, EFT tapping and you're like, oh, I'm curious, maybe I'll try it, like try it, see if it's for you. If it's not, that's okay. So the big piece for me was just figuring out like what actually works for me. Like, what do I enjoy doing? What do I have time to do that I can actually commit to that I feel makes a difference? Like, those are kind of like the main pillars for me. Like, if I'm doing a ritual or a meditation or whatever, and I don't feel it's making a difference, why am I going to keep doing it just because it makes a difference for someone else? Or if I don't actually enjoy doing it, why am I going to keep doing it just because somebody else enjoys it and they're like a guru online or whatever, right? So what really changed the game for me is just like, you know, deciding that I could do what I want to do. And like, this isn't just from a place of like not actually showing up for yourself. Like, let's go back to point number 1. But like, I'm going to show up for myself. And in what ways can I show up for myself that I'm going to be able to stick to and can be consistent with as much as I can, that feel good, that work for my schedule, my time, my energy. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. And for me, this looks like, you know, trying to find some time in the morning where my son's like eating his breakfast, he's busy, that I can like have I don't know if you see on Instagram, I have like a hot cacao every morning. I don't drink coffee. So I'll have that. I'll sit on the couch. He's eating, so he's kind of occupied. And I just take a few moments to like drink my cacao intentionally, like plant medicine. I feel like I can do a podcast episode on that too. And just ground in, like feeling gratitude for the day, taking a moment to have like, you know, a bit of a slow moment, a slow morning condensed, even though it's not right when I woke up, maybe it's half an hour later, but it's just like taking that time to ground in and feel into like, okay, like what's coming up for me right now, tuning into my intuition. Is there anything that's coming through? Like sometimes it's like, you know, my intuition's like, okay, hop on your Instagram stories and talk about XYZ, or like write down this idea for like some content you're going to create later. Like sometimes it's inspiration, but sometimes it's like, girl, clear your schedule today. You need to relax. And I'm just feeling into like, what's alive for me today? What's here, right? So it's like, that's a practice that I do pretty much every day. And then figuring out what else works for me. So I've kind of got like a little toolkit of like, okay, these are some rituals and things that I like to do. And, you know, they're all different lengths of time. So based on the time I have, like when my son's napping, like, you know, I can say like, okay, you know, like he might nap for like an hour and a half or whatever. Do I want to spend half an hour doing a bit of a ritual? Do I want to spend an hour? Like, do I feel like just doing a 15-minute thing and then like popping on some Netflix? Like, and just honoring whatever's there and like showing up for myself, but not making it like a big thing. You know what I mean? Like figuring out what works for me. And the biggest shift with this is like shifting your mindset to whatever I have, like whatever I can show up to do, whatever time I have, whatever energy I have, whether I'm alone or not, whatever it is, whatever I do is enough. And that was huge when I made that decision, that like my 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever I have each day to drink my morning cacao and tune into my intuition, feel into my body, like what's coming up for me today and whatever, whether that's 5 minutes, whether I have half an hour, it's enough. It's just as powerful as somebody who has a 2-hour morning routine. And when I made that decision in my head, everything changed. And I started to feel less like, woe is me. Like, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more resources to do all these things. I wish I had all these little tools and like whatever. And I shifted it to like, everything I have is enough. I don't need like a bunch of like a meditation pillow and all this stuff. Like back then, I don't even think I really had like oracle card decks or anything. I had like no tools, and it's like, I don't need any of that. And you don't. But it's like, they're fun to have, but it's like, you don't actually need them. Like all you need is yourself. So it's like when you make the decision that all I need is myself, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's an hour, whether I'm feeling tired, whether I'm feeling energized, and whatever I'm showing up to do, whether it's a meditation, or I'm going to scream into a pillow and release some rage, or I'm going to have a good cry because I feel like it, even if I don't know where it's coming from, or I'm going to take a few minutes to have a shower for myself and imagine the water cleansing myself. Like, find what works for you. And like, that reminds me too, I feel like I'm going to get off topic again, but not really. When I thought about the shower thing, it's like also doubling up on things too. Like something I would do is like, I'm going to have a shower anyway. So it's like, why don't I make it into a ritual? Like, I imagine the water cleansing me. I take a minute to like think of some things I'm grateful for, think of some things I want to manifest, like, make it into something. Like, you're brushing your teeth. Like, every time you brush your teeth, like, maybe you have a couple affirmations you kind of just say over and over in your head. Like, that's subconscious reprogramming. Like, how can you make what you're already doing in your life into something? Like, maybe it's popping on a podcast like this while you're cooking dinner. Like, you don't have time to sit and listen to it, but it's like you have time to like pop it on while you're making dinner, or like pop it on while you're in the shower, or while you're driving to work, like whatever it is. It's like just finding what works for you. And that's like the third thing that just was so impactful on my journey. So that is all I have to say. If you have any questions about this episode and you want me to dive deeper into something, or you're like, this was so good, can you expand on this? Like, or you have a question about something that you didn't quite understand, like, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram. It's linked in the show notes. I'm always happy to chat and chit chat. But also I love hearing that you like love the episode, of course, but I also love hearing questions because it helps me to know where those question marks are for you and what you're going through and what you're struggling with. And then I can create more content, whether it's on my Instagram or on my podcast, that's supportive for you, that's helpful for you. So send me a message. If you want to sign up for the membership that I talked about earlier in the episode, then I'll also link that in the show notes as well. I don't want to even get into that. I feel like I have so much to say about the membership. I love it so much, but it's linked there. If you want to chat with me about it and see if it's the right fit for you, there's always an option to send me a message on Instagram. No pressure conversation. I'm not going to like follow up with you or like pressure you into buying anything. It's just, we can chat it out and see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, then that's totally fine. So love to hear from you, and I hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll chat with you next time.